Imagine planning the perfect surprise for the love of your life, only to discover a photo that shatters everything you believed about your relationship. Harper thought she knew Elena inside and out after 3 years together. But sometimes the people we love most are the ones hiding the deepest secrets. Before we dive into this emotional roller coaster, make sure to subscribe to the channel, hit that notification bell, and let me know in the comments where you're watching from. The rental car's engine hummed as I pulled into the coastal resort's parking lot, my heart racing with anticipation. I turned off the ignition and took a deep breath, trying to steady my shaking hands before stepping out. 3 weeks. That's how long Elena had been gone on what she called her creative retreat, a solo vacation to rediscover her artistic inspiration. I gripped the steering wheel tighter. She's going to flip when she sees me, I whispered to myself, checking my reflection in the rearview mirror one more time. The ocean breeze hit my face as I stepped out, carrying the scent of salt and possibility. Palm trees swayed overhead, and the sound of waves crashing against the shore created the perfect romantic soundtrack for my surprise. I'd been planning this for days. Elena had mentioned the name of this resort exactly once during our last phone call, probably thinking I wasn't paying attention, but I always listened when it came to her. Every word mattered. My phone buzzed. A text from my best friend, Maya. "Did you make it? Are you sure about this surprise thing?" I typed back quickly. "Already here. She's going to love it." But even as I sent the message, something twisted in my stomach. Elena had been different during our calls, distant. Her usual animated storytelling had been replaced by short, vague responses about her days. "She's just tired," I told myself, grabbing my overnight bag from the trunk. That's why she needed this break. The resort lobby was all white marble and tropical plants with soft jazz playing in the background. The kind of place Elena would photograph from every angle, capturing the way light filtered through the glass ceiling. I approached the front desk where a young man with a perfect smile greeted me. "Good afternoon. How can I help you?" "Hi, I'm here to surprise my girlfriend. She's staying in room." I paused, realizing I didn't actually know her room number. "Elena Rodriguez. She checked in about a week ago." The clerk's fingers danced across his keyboard. "I'm sorry, but I can't give out guest information for privacy reasons." My heart sank. I hadn't thought this through, but he continued with a conspiratorial whisper. "If you're family or a significant other, I might be able to help. What's her last name again?" "Rodriguez. Elena Rodriguez. I'm Harper, her girlfriend of 3 years." I pulled out my phone, showing him a photo of us together from last month's anniversary dinner. His expression softened. "Room 237, second floor, ocean view. She specifically requested the balcony facing the sunset." Of course she did. Elena always chased the perfect light. "Thank you so much," I breathed, relief flooding through me. The elevator ride to the second floor felt eternal. My palms were sweating, and I kept rehearsing what I'd say when she opened the door. Something romantic, but not too cheesy. Something that would make her laugh and pull me into one of those kisses that made the world disappear. Room 237 sat at the end of a long hallway lined with tropical artwork. I could hear the ocean through the windows, and somewhere in the distance a guitar was playing. I raised my hand to knock, then hesitated. What if she was sleeping? What if she was on a video call with a client? Elena hated being interrupted when she was working. Instead, I pressed my ear to the door. Silence. My hand moved to the door handle almost automatically. Elena always forgot to lock doors. It was one of her quirks that used to drive me crazy. "You're too trusting," I'd tell her. "Not everyone has good intentions." The handle turned easily. "Elena," I called softly, pushing the door open just a crack. "Babe, it's me. Don't freak out, but The room was empty. Completely, utterly empty. But not just empty. It looked like Elena had stepped out for just a moment. Her camera bag sat on the dresser. The expensive Nikon she'd saved up for months to buy. Her favorite sundress was draped over a chair, and I could smell her perfume lingering in the air. I stepped inside fully, closing the door behind me. "Elena," I called again, louder this time. The balcony doors were open, white curtains dancing in the ocean breeze. Maybe she was out there watching the waves, lost in thought the way she often was. But the balcony was empty too. I turned back to the room, taking in the details. Elena's suitcase was open on the luggage rack, clothes neatly folded inside. Her laptop sat closed on the small table by the window. Everything looked normal, lived in, like she'd just stepped out to grab coffee or take a walk on the beach. That's when I saw it. On the perfectly made bed next to Elena's pillow lay an old film camera I'd never seen before. It was vintage, probably from the 1970 seconds, with a worn leather strap and brass details that caught the afternoon light. And beside it, face up like it had been carefully placed there, was a photograph. My breath caught in my throat. I moved closer, my heart hammering against my ribs. The photo was black and white, clearly taken with the vintage camera. It showed Elena sitting on what looked like this very balcony, but she wasn't alone. Another woman sat beside her, their heads tilted together, both laughing at something outside the frame. But it wasn't just that Elena was with someone else. It was the way she was looking at this woman. I'd seen that expression before in our early photos together in the mirror when Elena thought I wasn't watching. It was the look of someone completely, utterly in love. My hands shook as I picked up the photograph. The other woman was beautiful, in an effortless way. Dark hair falling in waves, eyes crinkled with genuine laughter, wearing a simple white dress that looked expensive. She had her hand on Elena's arm, and Elena was leaning into the touch like it was the most natural thing in the world. I sank onto the bed, staring at the image. Who was this woman? When was this taken? And why did Elena look happier in this single photograph than she had in months of being with me? The sound of a keycard beeping at the door made me freeze. Footsteps in the hallway. Elena's laugh, bright and musical. But she wasn't alone. Another voice, unfamiliar, said something I couldn't make out, and Elena laughed again. I looked at the photograph in my hands, then at the door, panic rising in my chest. They were coming back. I shoved the photograph back onto the bed, exactly where I'd found it. My heart pounding so loud I was sure they'd hear it through the door. The voices in the hallway were getting closer, and I could make out Elena's distinctive laugh, the one that used to make my entire day better. But now it sounded different, lighter, somehow, freer. Think, Harper, think, I whispered to myself, looking around the room frantically. The balcony. I could hide on the balcony until they left, then confront Elena when she was alone, or I could stay and face whatever was about to happen head on. The keycard beeped again, closer this time. I made my choice. The bathroom door closed silently behind me, just as I heard the main door open. Through the crack, I could see a sliver of the room, including the bed where that damning photograph lay waiting. I can't believe you convinced me to try that. Elena's voice floated through the air, warm with amusement. You needed to loosen up, came the reply. A woman's voice with a slight accent I couldn't place. When's the last time you did something just for fun? My stomach clenched. Elena did fun things. We did fun things together, didn't we? I tried to remember our last spontaneous adventure, our last moment of pure, uncomplicated joy, and came up empty. You're right, Elena said, and I heard the soft thud of her camera bag being set down. I've been so focused on work, on everything else. I forgot what it felt like to just be present. Everything else. Was I part of everything else? Through the crack in the door, I watched Elena move around the room. She looked different. Her hair was loose and slightly messy from the ocean breeze, and she was wearing a flowing white dress I'd never seen before. She looked relaxed in a way I hadn't seen in months. The light was perfect today, the other woman said. Your shots are going to be incredible. Elena picked up the vintage camera from the bed, handling it with the same reverence she usually reserved for her professional equipment. This old thing has been such a gift, Elena murmured. There's something about shooting film that makes you slow down, really think about each frame. My grandmother would be happy to know it's being used by someone who appreciates it. Your grandmother? I pressed closer to the door crack, trying to get a better view of this mysterious woman. She was the same person from the photograph. Dark hair, elegant features, wearing what looked like expensive casual clothes. But seeing her in person, moving through Elena's space like she belonged there, made my chest tight with something I didn't want to name. Sienna, Elena said, and the name hit me like a physical blow. Thank you for everything. This week has been life-changing, Sienna suggested with a smile in her voice. Elena laughed softly. I was going to say eye-opening, but yeah, life-changing works too. They were standing close now, close enough that I could see them both through the narrow gap. Sienna reached out and tucked a strand of Elena's hair behind her ear, the gesture so intimate and natural that I had to bite my lip to keep from making a sound. You should keep the camera, Sienna said. Consider it a gift. I can't accept something that valuable. You can, and you will. Sienna's hand lingered on Elena's cheek. Besides, I have a feeling you're going to need it where you're going, where she's going. What did that mean? Elena's expression grew serious. I haven't decided anything yet. Haven't you? Sienna asked gently. Elena, you've been miserable for months. Anyone can see that. My heart stopped. It's not that simple, Elena whispered. Harper and I, we have a life together, 3 years of history. I can't just throw that away because I'm having doubts. Doubts? The word echoed in my head like a gunshot. But you can't stay in something that's making you unhappy just because it's familiar, Sienna said. That's not fair to either of you. Elena sank onto the bed right next to where the photograph lay. She picked it up, staring at it with an expression I couldn't read. Look at yourself in this picture, Sienna said, sitting beside her. When's the last time you smiled like that at home? I wanted to scream. I wanted to burst out of this bathroom and demand answers, but I was frozen, trapped between the need to know more and the terror of what I might learn. She's a good person, Elena said quietly. Harper doesn't deserve this, and you don't deserve to spend your life pretending to be happy. Elena set the photograph down and looked up at Sienna. What if I'm making a mistake? What if this is just vacation feelings? What if I go home and realize I threw away something real for something that was never meant to last? Sienna was quiet for a long moment. When she spoke, her voice was gentle but firm. Then you'll figure it out. But Elena, you can't make decisions based on fear. You have to trust yourself. Elena nodded slowly, then stood up. I should shower before dinner. The salt air is making my hair impossible. My pulse spiked. If Elena came into the bathroom, this whole charade would be over. I'll wait on the balcony, Sienna said as if reading my panicked thoughts. Take your time. I heard footsteps moving toward the balcony, then the sound of the sliding door opening wider. Elena was moving around the room, and I could hear her opening drawers, probably getting closed for after her shower. This was my chance. While Sienna was outside and Elena was distracted, I could slip out of the bathroom, out of the room, and pretend this never happened. I could go back to the lobby, call Elena's room from the house phone, and act like I'd just arrived. But as I reached for the door handle, Elena's voice stopped me cold. Sigh, she called toward the balcony. Yeah, thank you for helping me remember who I am. The silence that followed was deafening. I stood in that bathroom surrounded by Elena's toiletries and the lingering scent of her shampoo and felt my world crumbling around me. 3 years of shared dreams, shared plans, shared everything. And Elena was thanking another woman for helping her remember who she was, as if I had somehow made her forget. As if I had been the thing standing between Elena and her true self. The sound of running water filled the bathroom as Elena turned on the shower. In a few minutes, she'd be in here, and I'd have to face the truth I'd been hiding from. But first, I needed to see that photograph again. I needed to understand what I was really looking at because something told me the conversation I'd just overheard was only the beginning. The shower was running, steam beginning to fog the bathroom mirror, and I could hear Sienna's voice drifting in from the balcony as she took a phone call. This was my window. I slipped out of the bathroom as quietly as possible and moved toward the bed where the photograph lay like evidence of a crime I didn't understand yet. Up close, in better light, the details were even more devastating. Elena's smile was radiant. Not the careful camera-ready smile she wore in our social media posts, but something genuine and unguarded. Her eyes were bright with laughter, and there was a looseness to her posture I hadn't seen in months, maybe longer. But it was Sienna who made my breath catch. She wasn't just beautiful. She was magnetic. Even in a still photograph, I could sense the energy radiating from her. The way she looked at Elena wasn't possessive or demanding. It was appreciative, like she was witnessing something precious. I flipped the photo over, hoping for a date or some clue about when this was taken. In Elena's handwriting, day 3, learning to see again. Yes, day 3. Elena had been here a week, which meant this photo was taken 4 days ago. 4 days ago, while I was at home missing her. Planning this surprise. She was here with Sienna, learning to see again. What did that even mean? The shower was still running, but I could hear Elena humming, a song I didn't recognize. When had she learned new songs? I set the photograph down and picked up the vintage camera, turning it over in my hands. It was heavier than Elena's digital cameras, solid and well-maintained despite its age. The leather strap was worn smooth from years of use. My grandmother would be happy to know it's being used by someone who appreciates it. Sienna's words echoed in my mind. This wasn't just any camera. It was a family heirloom, something precious enough that giving it away meant something significant. I opened the back of the camera and saw there was still film inside, partially used. How many more photos were on that roll? How many more moments between Elena and Sienna that I didn't know about? The balcony door slid open and I quickly set the camera down, pretending to examine the room's artwork as Sienna stepped back inside. "Sorry about that," she said, presumably to Elena. "Work never stops, even on vacation." That's when she saw me. We stared at each other for a frozen moment, me standing awkwardly by the bed, her framed in the doorway with the ocean behind her. Up close, she was even more striking than in the photograph. Mid-30 seconds maybe, with intelligent dark eyes and the kind of effortless style that suggested money and good taste. "Oh," she said, her voice carefully neutral. "You must be Harper." The way she said my name, like she'd heard it before, like Elena had talked about me, made my stomach twist. "And you're Sienna," I replied, trying to keep my voice steady. She stepped fully into the room, closing the balcony door behind her. "Elena didn't mention you were coming. It's a surprise." The words came out sharper than I intended. Sienna nodded slowly, her eyes moving from me to the photograph on the bed and back again. She knew I'd seen it. The question was what she planned to do about it. "She's in the shower," Sienna said unnecessarily. I heard. The silence stretched between us, heavy with unspoken questions. I wanted to demand answers. Who was she? What was her relationship with Elena? What did that photograph mean? But something in Sienna's calm, assessing gaze made me hesitate. "You're the photographer," she said finally. "Elena's told me about your work, has she?" I couldn't keep the bitterness out of my voice. "Funny, she hasn't mentioned you at all." Sienna's expression didn't change, but I caught a flicker of something sympathy in her eyes. "We met at the art gallery downtown," she said. "I'm curating a show on contemporary women photographers. Elena's work caught my attention. Professional, of course. That made sense, didn't it? But then, why did the photograph look so intimate? Why had Elena been humming in the shower like she was happy in a way I hadn't seen in months? The gallery owner introduced us. Sienna continued. Elena mentioned she was here working on a personal project, rediscovering her artistic voice. I offered to show her some local spots that might inspire her. "With your grandmother's camera," I said, nodding toward the vintage Nikon. Elena admired it. She said shooting film reminded her why she fell in love with photography in the first place. Sienna paused. Before it became about deadlines and client expectations, the implication hung in the air. Elena's photography had become commercial over the past year, focused on paying the bills rather than artistic expression. I'd encouraged that shift, pushed her to take on more lucrative wedding and portrait work. "We all have to make a living," I said defensively. "Of course," Sienna agreed. "But sometimes we lose ourselves in the process." The shower shut off and both of us turned toward the bathroom door. In a few minutes, Elena would emerge, and this strange, tense conversation would become something else entirely. "She doesn't know you're here," Sienna said. It wasn't a question. "Like I said, it's a surprise." "Harper." Sienna's voice was gentle, but firm. "Elena's been struggling this trip. It's been important for her. She's been rediscovering parts of herself that got buried under everyday life." "What are you saying?" "I'm saying maybe you should think about whether surprising her right now is the kindest thing to do." The bathroom door opened and Elena emerged in a cloud of steam wrapped in a white hotel robe, her hair damp and curling around her shoulders. She was looking down, toweling her hair, and didn't see me at first. "Sienna, did you want to grab dinner at that place you mentioned, or?" She looked up and froze. For a moment, nobody moved. Elena's eyes went wide, her mouth opening in shock. The towel slipped from her hands and fell to the floor. "Harper," she whispered like she wasn't sure I was real. "Surprise," I said weakly. Elena's gaze darted from me to Sienna to the photograph on the bed, and I watched her face cycle through confusion, panic, and something that looked almost like guilt. "What are you doing here?" she asked, and there was something in her tone I'd never heard before. Not anger exactly, but not joy either. "I missed you," I said, the words feeling inadequate and pathetic. "I wanted to surprise you." Elena looked at Sienna again, and some silent communication passed between them. Sienna nodded almost imperceptibly and moved toward the door. "I should go," Sienna said. "Let you two talk." "No," Elena said quickly, then caught herself. "I mean, you don't have to leave on my account." But Sienna was already gathering her purse. "I'll call you later," she told Elena, and the casual intimacy of the statement hit me like a slap. She paused at the door and looked back at me. "It was nice meeting you, Harper." Then she was gone, leaving Elena and me alone with a photograph and 3 years of history that suddenly felt very fragile. Elena stood there in her robe, water still dripping from her hair, looking at me like I was a stranger. "We need to talk," she said finally. "We need to talk." Elena's words hung in the air between us like a verdict I wasn't ready to hear. She was still standing by the bathroom door, clutching her robe closed, looking anywhere but directly at me. "Yeah," I said, my voice barely above a whisper. "We do." But neither of us moved. The photograph lay on the bed between us like a third person in the room, impossible to ignore. Elena walked to the dresser and started pulling out clothes, a sundress, underwear, sandals. Her movements were mechanical, like she was buying time to figure out what to say. "I'm going to get dressed," she said without looking at me. "And then we'll talk." She disappeared back into the bathroom, leaving me alone with my racing thoughts and the sound of the ocean through the open balcony doors. I picked up the photograph again, studying Elena's face. She looked so young in it, so free. When had I last seen her look like that? When had I last made her look like that? The bathroom door opened, and Elena emerged wearing the sundress, the same white one I'd seen draped over the chair earlier. It was simple, but elegant, the kind of thing she used to wear when we first started dating, before her wardrobe became more practical, more focused on comfort than beauty. "You look nice," I said automatically. "Thanks." She sat on the edge of the bed as far from me as possible while still being in the same room. "Harper, what are you doing here? Really? I told you. I missed you. I wanted to surprise you by tracking down my hotel and showing up unannounced." The accusation in her voice stung. "You mentioned the name of this place. I thought you'd be happy to see me." Elena was quiet for a long moment, staring at her hands. "I needed this time alone, Harper. I told you that." "I know, but 3 weeks felt like forever. And you seemed so distant on our calls. So you decided to check up on me." "No, that's not." I stopped, frustrated. "Elena, what's going on? You've been different for months, distant, unhappy. I thought maybe if I came here, if we had some time together away from everything, we could figure out what's wrong." "And what's wrong?" Elena looked up at me finally, and I was shocked by the sadness in her eyes. "Harper, when's the last time you asked me how I was feeling?" Really asked, not just as a conversation starter. I opened my mouth to answer and realized I couldn't. "When's the last time we talked about something other than work or bills or whose turn it is to do the dishes again?" Silence. "When's the last time you looked at my photography? Really looked at it and told me what you thought?" "I always support your work." "You support my income," Elena said quietly. "There's a difference." The words hit me like a physical blow. "That's not fair, isn't it?" Elena stood up and walked to the balcony doors, looking out at the ocean. "Harper, I've been drowning for months, and you haven't even noticed. If you were unhappy, why didn't you tell me?" I tried. Her voice was so soft I had to strain to hear it. "Remember when I wanted to take that workshop in Santa Fe? You said we couldn't afford it. When I talked about maybe doing more artistic work, you reminded me about our mortgage. When I suggested we take a real vacation together, you said you were too busy with your own projects." Each example felt like a small knife to the chest. I remembered those conversations, but I'd thought I was being practical, responsible. I was trying to be realistic. "You were trying to control me." Elena turned around and there were tears in her eyes. "Maybe not consciously, but Harper, you've been slowly talking me out of everything that made me feel alive." "That's not true." "Then explain this." She picked up the photograph from the bed. "Explain why I look happier in this picture with someone I've known for a week than I have in months with you." I stared at the image at Elena's radiant smile and felt something crumble inside me. "Who is she?" I asked. "Really?" Elena sat back down, cradling the photograph like it was precious. "Her name is Sienna Martinez. She's an art curator from Los Angeles. She's here scouting locations for a photography exhibition and she's been showing me around the island, taking me to places where the light is incredible, where I can shoot the kind of photos I used to dream about making. That's all." Elena was quiet for so long I thought she wasn't going to answer. "She listens to me," Elena said finally. "When I talk about my work, about my dreams, she doesn't immediately start calculating the financial implications. She asks questions. She gets excited about my ideas. She makes me feel like my art matters." "Your art does matter. To you, it matters because it pays bills. To Sienna, it matters because it's beautiful." I felt like I was drowning. Are you in love with her?" Elena looked down at the photograph, tracing Sienna's face with her finger. "I don't know. Maybe. I think." I think I'm in love with who I am when I'm with her. The honesty of it was devastating. So what does that mean for us? I asked. I don't know that either. We sat in silence, the weight of 3 years together pressing down on us. Outside, I could hear other guests laughing by the pool, living their uncomplicated vacation lives. I should go, I said finally. Harper. No, you're right. I shouldn't have come here. This was your time, your space, and I invaded it. I stood up, looking around for my bag. I'll get a room somewhere else for tonight and fly home tomorrow. You don't have to leave the island. Yes, I do. I found my bag by the door where I dropped it a lifetime ago. Elena, I love you. I have for 3 years. But maybe love isn't enough if I've been making you miserable without even realizing it. Elena started crying then, quiet tears that made my chest ache. I love you too, she whispered. That's what makes this so hard. I wanted to go to her, to hold her, to promise I could change, that we could fix this. But the photograph on the bed told a different story. It showed a version of Elena I hadn't seen in so long I'd forgotten she existed. Take care of yourself, I said, opening the door. Harper, wait. I turned back. I'm sorry, Elena said, for not being honest sooner, for letting things get this bad between us. You deserved better than that. I nodded, not trusting my voice, and walked out of the room. The hallway felt endless as I made my way back to the elevator. My hands were shaking as I pressed the button for the lobby, and I realized I had no idea what I was going to do next. 3 hours ago, I'd been planning a romantic surprise. Now I was planning how to rebuild my entire life. The elevator doors closed and I caught a glimpse of my reflection in the polished metal. I looked like someone who'd just lost everything because I had. The hotel lobby felt like a fishbowl as I stood there with my overnight bag trying to figure out my next move. Other guests moved around me with purpose, checking in, heading to dinner, living their normal lives, while mine fell apart in real time. Excuse me, I said to the same desk clerk who'd helped me earlier. His perfect smile faltered when he saw my face. Is everything okay, miss? I need a room just for tonight. Of course. His fingers flew across the keyboard. I have a standard room available, or if you'd prefer, anything is fine. He handed me a key card and directions to room 118. Ground floor garden view, as far from Elena as possible, which felt appropriate. The room was identical to Elena's, except for the view. Instead of the ocean, I looked out at a carefully manicured garden where a few guests were having cocktails by a fountain. Normal people doing normal things. I sat on the bed and stared at my phone. I should call Maya, tell her what happened. I should change my flight, figure out how to get home. I should do something productive instead of sitting here replaying every moment of the last 3 years, looking for signs I'd missed. Instead, I found myself walking back outside. The beach was a 5-minute walk from the hotel, and the sun was starting to set, painting the sky in shades of pink and orange that Elena would have loved to photograph. The irony wasn't lost on me. I kicked off my shoes and walked along the water's edge, letting the waves wash over my feet. The beach was mostly empty except for a few couples taking sunset photos and some kids building sandcastles. Rough day. I turned to find Sienna sitting on a piece of driftwood about 20 feet away. She'd changed into jeans and a flowing white shirt, and her hair was loose around her shoulders. You could say that, I replied, not sure if I wanted company or solitude. Mind if I join you? I promise I'm not here to cause more drama. I almost laughed. I think I caused enough drama for both of us. Sienna stood and walked over, stopping a respectful distance away. Elena told me you got a room here for the night. News travels fast. She's worried about you. She shouldn't be. I'm not her responsibility anymore. We walked in silence for a few minutes. The only sound, the rhythm of waves against the shore. Finally, Sienna spoke. For what it's worth, I think you're handling this better than most people would. By running away, by giving her space to figure things out. I stopped walking and looked at her. Can I ask you something? Sure. Are you in love with her? Sienna was quiet for a long moment, staring out at the horizon. I care about her a lot. But Harper, I'm not trying to steal your girlfriend. Then what are you trying to do? I'm trying to help her remember who she is. Sienna turned to face me. When I met Elena, she was taking pictures of tourists by the pier. Technically perfect shots with no soul. She looked miserable. The description stung because it was accurate. Elena's recent work had been competent but uninspired. I asked her why she became a photographer. Sienna continued. She couldn't answer. She literally couldn't remember why she fell in love with it in the first place. So you decided to fix her. I decided to listen to her. Sienna's voice was gentle but firm. Harper, when's the last time Elena talked to you about her dreams? Not her goals or her plans, but her actual dreams. I tried to remember and came up empty. She wants to document stories that matter, Sienna said. Social issues, environmental causes, human connections. She wants her work to mean something beyond paying bills. That's not realistic. Why not? Because art doesn't pay the mortgage. Because someone has to be practical in a relationship. And you decided that someone was you? The question hit harder than I expected. I was trying to take care of us by making all the decisions, by being responsible. Sienna stopped walking and looked at me with something that might have been pity. Harper, do you know what Elena told me yesterday? I shook my head. She said she felt like she was disappearing. Like every day a little more of who she used to be just vanished. And the worst part was that she didn't think anyone noticed. The words felt like a punch to the gut. I noticed she was unhappy. I thought it was stress, work pressure. Did you ask her about it? I tried to fix it. I suggested she take on fewer clients. Maybe take a vacation. Did you ask her what she wanted? I opened my mouth to answer and realized I hadn't. I'd seen Elena's unhappiness as a problem to solve, not a conversation to have. She loves you, Sienna said quietly. But she's been drowning, and instead of throwing her a life preserver, you've been trying to teach her to swim in a pool she never wanted to be in. We'd reached a rocky outcropping where the beach curved away from the hotel. Sienna sat down on a large boulder, and after a moment I joined her. So what happens now? I asked. That's up to Elena and you. She looked so happy in that photograph. She was happy. For the first time in months, she was doing work that excited her, talking about ideas that mattered to her, feeling like herself again, with you, with someone who wasn't trying to change her. The accusation hung in the air between us. I wanted to argue, to defend myself, but the evidence was overwhelming. Elena had been withering in our relationship, and I'd been too focused on practical concerns to notice. I never meant to change her, I said finally. I believe that. But Harper, good intentions don't erase the impact. The sun was almost gone now, just a sliver of orange on the horizon. Soon it would be dark, and I'd have to go back to my empty hotel room and figure out how to rebuild a life that had just imploded. Can I ask you something? I said. Of course. If Elena decides to stay with me, will you back off? Sienna was quiet for a long time. If Elena decides to stay with you, it won't be because I backed off. It'll be because you figured out how to love her without trying to control her. And if she doesn't, then you'll both be better off. The honesty was brutal, but not unkind. Sienna wasn't my enemy, I realized. She was just someone who saw Elena clearly without the filter of 3 years of accumulated expectations and compromises. I should get back, I said, standing up. Harper. Sienna's voice stopped me. Elena's going to need time to figure this out. Don't push her for an answer she's not ready to give. I nodded and started walking back toward the hotel, leaving Sienna sitting on the rocks watching the last of the sunset disappear. My phone buzzed with a text from Elena. Are you okay? We should talk more tomorrow. I typed back. I'm fine. Take all the time you need. But as I walked through the hotel lobby toward my room, I wondered if time would be enough to fix what we'd broken, or if some things, once lost, could never be found again. I barely slept. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw Elena's face in that photograph. Radiant, alive, free. By 6 a.m., I gave up and went for a walk on the beach, hoping the ocean air would clear my head. The sunrise was spectacular, painting the sky in shades of gold and pink that would have made Elena reach for her camera. I found myself looking for her along the shoreline, but the beach was empty except for a few early morning joggers. My phone buzzed with a text. Can we meet for breakfast? Hotel Restaurant 8A, M.E. I stared at the message for a long time before typing back. Yes. The hotel restaurant was an open-air space overlooking the ocean with white tablecloths and tropical flowers on every table. I arrived early and chose a table in the corner away from other guests. Elena appeared at exactly 8, wearing jeans and a simple blue t-shirt, her hair pulled back in a ponytail. She looked tired, like she hadn't slept much either. Hi, she said, sitting across from me. Hi. The waitress came over and we both ordered coffee and fruit. Neither of us seemed interested in actual food. How was your room? Elena asked, when we were alone again. Fine, quiet, good. We sat in awkward silence until the coffee arrived. Elena wrapped her hands around her mug like she was trying to warm herself, even though the morning was already getting hot. "I've been thinking all night," she said finally. "Me too. Harper, I owe you an explanation. A real one." I nodded, not trusting my voice. Elena took a deep breath. "It started about 6 months ago. I was editing photos from the Morrison wedding. You remember the one with the bridezilla who made me reshoot the ceremony 3 times? I remembered. Elena had come home exhausted and frustrated. I was looking at all these pictures of people celebrating love, and I realized I couldn't remember the last time I felt that kind of joy. Not just happiness, but actual joy." She paused, staring into her coffee. "I started paying attention to how I felt every day when I woke up, when I was working, when I came home to you. And Harper, I was just numb, going through the motions. Why didn't you tell me? I tried. Remember when I suggested we take that photography workshop together in Colorado? You said it was too expensive. When I talked about maybe doing some pro bono work for that environmental nonprofit, you reminded me about our savings goals. Each example felt like a small cut. I had said those things, but I'd thought I was being practical. I started to feel like I was living someone else's life," Elena continued. "Like I'd somehow become this person who prioritized security over passion, routine over adventure. And the worst part was, I couldn't figure out when it happened. I never asked you to give up your dreams. You didn't have to ask. Every time I brought up something that excited me, you found a reason why it wasn't practical. After a while, I stopped bringing things up. The truth of it hit me like a wave. I had been doing that, hadn't I? Shooting down her ideas before they could take flight. So, when I decided to take this trip," Elena said, "it wasn't just about getting away. It was about remembering who I used to be before I became half of Harper and Elena. And then you met Sienna." Elena's face softened. "She was at the gallery when I went to see a photography exhibition. We started talking about the work, and she asked me what kind of photography I was passionate about. I couldn't answer. So, she decided to help you figure it out. She offered to show me some places on the island where I could shoot. No agenda, no expectations, just space to explore." Elena pulled out her phone and showed me a photo. A black and white image of an elderly fisherman mending nets, his weathered hands telling a story of decades by the sea. "I took this yesterday," she said. "It's the first photo I've taken in months that made me feel something." The image was beautiful, full of emotion and character. It was the kind of work Elena used to do before she got caught up in the commercial photography world. "It's incredible," I said and meant it. Sienna helped me see it. Not just the shot, but the story behind it. She asked me questions I hadn't thought to ask myself. Like what? Like why I was so afraid to take risks with my work. Like when I stopped trusting my own artistic instincts. Like what would happen if I stopped worrying about making money and started focusing on making art that mattered. I felt a familiar surge of anxiety. "Elena, you can't just ignore practical concerns. See?" Elena's voice was gentle but firm. "That's exactly what I'm talking about. I mentioned following my artistic instincts, and your first response is about practical concerns." She was right. I'd done it again without even thinking. "Harper, I need you to understand something. Sienna didn't seduce me away from you. She just reminded me that I used to be someone who took chances, who believed my work could make a difference in the world." "Are you in love with her?" I asked again. Elena was quiet for a long moment. "I'm attracted to her, yes. But more than that, I'm attracted to who I am when I'm with her. She sees potential in me that I'd forgotten existed. And with me, with you, I feel safe, secure. But Harper, I also feel small. Like I'm constantly being talked out of the things that make me feel alive." The words stung because they were true. I had been doing that, hadn't I? Every time Elena expressed interest in something risky or unconventional, I'd found reasons why it wouldn't work. "I never meant to make you feel small," I said. "I know, but impact matters more than intention." We sat in silence, watching other hotel guests enjoy their vacation breakfasts, normal couples having normal conversations about normal things. "So, what happens now?" I asked. "I don't know," Elena said honestly. "I need time to figure out who I am and what I want, and I need to know that whoever I'm with will support that journey, not try to redirect it. Even if it means financial instability. Even if it means taking risks that might not pay off." Elena looked at me with something that might have been disappointment. "Harper, do you hear yourself? I'm talking about finding my passion again, and you're already calculating the risks." She was right. I was doing it again. "I'm scared," I admitted. I'm scared of losing you, and I'm scared of a life without stability. I know. But Harper, I'm scared too. I'm scared of spending the rest of my life playing it safe and wondering what might have been. Elena reached across the table and took my hand. I love you. I have for 3 years, but I can't keep shrinking myself to fit into the life we built together. What if I changed? What if I learned to support your dreams instead of questioning them? Could you really do that? Could you watch me take a financial risk on a project that might fail and not try to talk me out of it? I wanted to say yes, but the honest answer was that I didn't know. I need time, Elena said, and space to figure out who I am when I'm not trying to be the person I think you need me to be. How much time? I don't know. Maybe I'll stay here for another week, maybe longer. With Sienna, maybe. Harper, I'm not making any promises about what will happen between Sienna and me, but I am promising to be honest with you about whatever I decide. I nodded, even though it felt like my heart was breaking. I should go, I said, standing up. Your flight isn't until this afternoon. I'm going to try to change it. I think I need to go home and figure some things out too. Elena stood as well, and for a moment, we just looked at each other. Harper, yeah, thank you for listening, for not trying to fix this or convince me I'm wrong. I almost laughed. Trust me, I want to. Every instinct I have is telling me to fight for us, but you're not. Because maybe fighting for us means letting you figure out what you need. Elena's eyes filled with tears. I do love you. I love you too. That's why I'm going to let you go. 6 months later, I was sitting in my apartment in Portland editing photos from a corporate event when my phone rang. Elena's name appeared on the screen and my heart did the same little skip it had been doing every time she called over the past few months. Hey, I answered. Hey yourself, how are you? Good, busy. I just finished shooting a tech conference that was about as exciting as it sounds. I saved my work and leaned back in my chair. How's the exhibition coming along? It's incredible, Harper. The response has been amazing. 3 of my pieces sold on opening night. I could hear the joy in her voice. The same joy I'd seen in that photograph 6 months ago. That's fantastic. I'm so proud of you, and I meant it. After Elena had decided to stay in California and pursue her artistic photography full-time, I'd had to learn how to be proud of her choices, even when they scared me. There's something else, Elena said, and I could hear the nervousness in her voice. What's up? I'm coming to Portland next week for work, but also, I was hoping we could talk in person. My stomach fluttered. We'd been talking regularly since she'd moved to Los Angeles, but we hadn't seen each other face to face since that morning at the hotel restaurant. Of course I'd like that. Good. I'll text you my flight details. After we hung up, I sat in my apartment looking around at the space that had once been ours. I'd redecorated after Elena left, painted the walls a warm yellow, and bought new furniture. It looked good, but it still felt too quiet sometimes. The past 6 months had been a journey I never expected to take. After leaving the island, I'd spent weeks angry and hurt, convinced that Elena had thrown away something good for a fantasy. But slowly, with the help of therapy and some honest conversations with friends, I'd started to see things differently. I'd started to see how I'd been controlling without meaning to be, how my need for security had slowly suffocated Elena's dreams, how love without freedom wasn't really love at all. I'd also started taking my own risks. I'd quit my stable but soul-crushing job at the marketing firm and started freelancing as a photographer. It was scary and financially uncertain, but for the first time in years, I was excited about my work. The week passed slowly. Elena texted me her flight information and suggested we meet at the coffee shop where we'd had our first date 3.5 years ago. The symmetry felt intentional. I arrived early and chose a table by the window, the same spot where we'd sat that first afternoon when Elena had been nervous about showing me her portfolio. I'd been so impressed by her talent, so drawn to her passion for capturing human stories. When had I stopped seeing that passion as something to celebrate and started seeing it as something to manage? Elena walked in at exactly 3, and my breath caught. She looked different, more confident, more vibrant. Her hair was shorter, and she was wearing a flowing dress I'd never seen before. She looked like the woman in the photograph. "Hi," she said, sliding into the seat across from me. "Hi. You look amazing." "Thanks. You look good too." "Different. I've been working out and I got contacts." I'd also been eating better and sleeping more, but I didn't mention that. We ordered coffee and spent a few minutes catching up on safe topics. Work, mutual friends, the weather. But eventually, the conversation turned to why she was really here. "I have something to tell you," Elena said, wrapping her hands around her mug in the gesture I remembered so well. My heart sank. You and Sienna? We tried dating for a while, Elena said carefully. But it didn't work out. I tried not to look too relieved. I'm sorry. Don't be. It was good while it lasted, but we wanted different things. She's focused on her career, traveling for exhibitions. I realized I want something more stable. Stable? I couldn't help but smile. That's a word I never thought I'd hear you use positively. Elena laughed. I know, right? Turns out there's a difference between stability and stagnation. I want a partner who supports my dreams, but also wants to build something lasting together. And Sienna wasn't that person. Sienna was exactly what I needed at that moment in my life. She helped me remember who I was and what I wanted. But she was never meant to be forever. Elena reached into her purse and pulled out a small photo album. I wanted to show you something. She opened it to reveal a collection of photographs from her recent work. Portraits of immigrants sharing their stories. Environmental activists protecting old-growth forests. Elderly couples celebrating decades of marriage. The images were powerful, emotional, full of the passion I'd fallen in love with years ago. These are incredible, I said, and meant it. I've been documenting stories that matter to me. It doesn't pay as much as wedding photography, but I supplement with some commercial work and I'm making it work. I'm so proud of you, Harper. I need to ask you something, and I need you to be completely honest, okay? Okay, I said, though my heart was racing. If we tried again, and I'm not saying we should, I'm just asking hypothetically, could you really support me taking risks with my career, even if it meant less money, less security? I thought about the question seriously, remembering all the work I'd done in therapy, all the ways I'd been examining my own fears and control issues 6 months ago. I would have said yes, but not meant it, I said finally. I would have tried to be supportive while secretly hoping you'd come to your senses and choose the safer path. Elena nodded. And now I understand that trying to keep you safe from failure also kept you safe from joy. And that's not love. That's fear disguised as love. Elena's eyes filled with tears. Harper, I've been doing my own work. I continued therapy mostly, learning about why I need to control things, why other people's risks feel so threatening to me. And I've been taking some risks of my own. Like what? I quit my job. I'm freelancing now, doing the kind of photography I actually care about. It's terrifying and uncertain, and 6 months ago, I never would have done it. How does it feel? Scary, exhilarating, like I'm finally living my own life instead of the life I thought I was supposed to want. We sat in comfortable silence for a moment, both of us processing. There's something else, Elena said. I've been offered a position with a nonprofit that documents social justice issues. It would mean traveling sometimes, irregular hours, definitely less money than I could make doing commercial work. That sounds amazing, I said, and surprised myself by meaning it completely. You're not going to ask about the salary or the benefits or whether it's a smart career move. I'm going to ask if it's what you want. Elena smiled, the same radiant smile from the photograph. It's exactly what I want. Then you should take it. Just like that. Just like that. Elena reached across the table and took my hand. I missed you. Not just having you in my life, but missing the person you're becoming. The person who asks what I want instead of telling me what's practical. I missed you too. All of you. Even the parts that scared me. Harper, I don't know if we can fix what we had before. I don't want to fix what we had before, I said. I want to build something new. Something where we both get to be who we really are. That's scary. Yeah, it is. But maybe scary is good sometimes. Elena laughed. Listen to you. Embracing uncertainty. I'm learning. We talked for another hour, sharing stories from the past 6 months, laughing about old memories, carefully exploring the possibility of a future together. It felt different than before, more honest, more intentional. I should probably get going, Elena said finally. I have dinner plans with Maya. She's going to grill you about this conversation. Oh, I'm counting on it. I need her perspective. We stood up and for a moment, we just looked at each other. Elena, yeah, whatever happens between us, I want you to know that leaving was the best thing you could have done for both of us. Really? Really. I needed to learn how to love you without trying to change you, and you needed to remember who you were without me. Elena stepped closer and hugged me, and I breathed in the familiar scent of her shampoo mixed with something new. Confidence, maybe. Or just the smell of someone who was finally living authentically. I love you, she whispered against my ear. I love you too, but But we both need to be sure we're choosing each other for the right reasons this time. Elena pulled back and looked at me. How will we know? I guess we'll figure it out as we go. 3 months later, Elena moved back to Portland. Not back in with me, but to her own apartment across town. We started dating again slowly, intentionally, like two people getting to know each other for the first time. It wasn't always easy. There were moments when my old controlling instincts kicked in, when Elena's new independence felt threatening. But we'd learned how to talk about those moments instead of letting them fester. Elena took the job with the nonprofit and spent her days documenting stories that mattered to her. I built my freelance business around projects that excited me rather than just paid well. We were both poorer in terms of money, but richer in terms of purpose. 6 months after that coffee shop conversation, Elena moved in with me again. But this time we made sure the apartment reflected both of our dreams, not just our practical needs. Elena set up a dark room in the spare bedroom. I converted the garage into a studio space. We still had the same fight sometimes about money, about risk, about the future. But now we fought as equals, as two people who respected each other's autonomy even when we disagreed. And sometimes when the light was just right and Elena was working on a project that excited her, I'd catch her with that same expression from the photograph, radiant, alive, free, except now she was looking at me. A year later, I proposed to her on the same beach where I'd first met Sienna, where I'd first understood that love meant letting go. Elena said yes, but only after making me promise that we'd keep growing, keep challenging each other, keep choosing each other every day, instead of just assuming we belong together. It was the easiest promise I'd ever made because I'd finally learned that the best kind of love isn't the kind that keeps you safe from change. It's the kind that helps you become who you're meant to be, even if that person is someone you never expected to become. Subscribe to our channel for more stories about love, growth, and second chances. And tell us in the comments, have you ever had to let someone go in order to love them better? Your story might inspire someone else who's struggling with the same choice.